Dr. Gitansha Shreya Sachdev. She is the academic in charge and consultant at the Eye Foundation, Coimbatore. She's an assistant editor of refractive surgery. They're doing a great job with the IGO actually, and a guest reviewer for scientific reports of the cornea, JCRS, eye, AGO case reports, BMC case reports, eye and vision clinical ophthalmology. The youngest recipient of the IRSI Gold Medal and the recipient of the Shiv Prasad Hardia Best Paper in Refractive Surgery at AIOC 2019. She has received the ICMR grant for work in CXL and more and more and more. And so Gitansha is very bright refractive surgeon. I'll invite Dr. Gitansha to please share her screen and go ahead. She'll be talking on CXL.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. So my talk today is on recent advances in collagen cross-linking. We'll essentially be dealing with this under three broad subcategories. I'll start with cross-linking in thin corneas, move on to customized cross-linking, and finally a quick word on cross-linking for low myopia. Now, we're all aware that the standard Dresden protocol entails a minimum stromal thickness of 400 microns for the cross-linking. Unfortunately, especially in the developing countries, a number of the patients present late in the stage of the disease where the corneal thickness is below 400 microns. Thus, a number of treatment modalities have evolved for cross-linking these thin corneas, but all of them have their own drawbacks and limitations. Hypotonic cross-linking artificially swells up the cornea intraoperatively, so the collagen moves further apart, making the cross-linking less effective. Transepithelial approaches like iontophoresis also have controversial efficacy. The use of a contact lens has been described for intrastromal augmentation. However, both the absorptive and the biomechanical properties of the contact lens are vastly different from the underlying stroma. So we describe the use of a lenticule obtained from patients undergoing SMILE for myopia in order to have an intraoperative stromal augmentation. With a 5-year follow-up of safety and efficacy, we also went on to do this procedure in combination with intracorneal ring segment implantation. But when you look at this, thus far, all the treatments have either worked on changing the riboflavin concentration or trying to augment the stromal thickness. But the UVA irradiation still remains constant at a 5.4 joules per centimeter square. So the new concept that is now evolving is adaptive fluence, wherein the riboflavin and the stromal thickness is unaltered, but the fluence is now adapted to the thickness of the cornea. They've shown some promising results in lab studies in porcine eyes. However, clinical extrapolation of this is still pending. Now, moving on to customized collagen cross-linking. We all know that keratoconus is a focal disease. However, cross-linking causes a global strengthening. So, would delivering a larger fluence over the area of the cone give you better results? Brilliant microscopy has shown that the area over the cone in keratoconus is far weaker from the area outside the cone, which is almost similar to a normal cornea. Again, finite element analysis models have shown that when we take a cone localized high fluence energy, it causes a greater keratometric flattening as compared to the standard conventional broad beam. So extrapolation of this into clinical practice is what is known as customized cross-linking. This can be done by the KXL2 Avedro system. Now, the KXL2 affords a large amount of customization vis-a-vis the shape of the treatment, the total energy that one wants to deliver, the centration, and even the diameter. This is an example wherein we've done a treatment planning of 3 concentric circles where you can see that the energy is increasing from 7.2 joules to 15 joules over the area of the cone, which is centered on the posterior float elevation. Now, the outcomes of this novel technique have been exceedingly promising, wherein over a 1-year follow-up, they have tested the treatment parameters in different shapes, be it toric, arcuate, or concentric circles, with a maximum fluence delivery ranging from 10 to 15 joules per centimeter square. I'm sorry, just a moment. Significantly greater keratometric flattening was noted, along with a significant gain in the lines of spectacle-corrected visual acuity in the customized group vis-a-vis the conventional cross-linking. This is a patient where you can see 3 depths of stromal demarcation line following the customized treatment. Again, safety, the endothelial cell counts were stable and the haze formation was similar to that of the conventional treatment. However, the limitations of the studies thus far is that the earlier treatments were either centered on the corneal curvature or the pachymetry. Both of these are modulated by the epithelial thickness and the tear film height. So it would definitely be more intuitive to center it on the posterior float. This was done by Seiler and co-workers, but the limitations here were that they used varying diameters of treatment, wherein sometimes the largest diameter was less than 7 millimeters, which possibly could make it less safe. Again, they needed a proper elevation to judge the diameter of the smallest circle. Thereby, early cases with just a maxima could not be included in these studies. Also, we all know that the diameter of the elevation would depend on the diameter of the best fit sphere. So, in order to overcome these limitations, we plan customized cross-linking centered on the maximum point of elevation and not the diameter. And we took fixed diameters of 3, 5, and 7 millimeters for the treatment. Now, at 1 year follow-up, there was a significant reduction in the spherical equivalent and the eyes asymmetry, which led to a significant improvement in the spectacle corrected visual acuity. We also noted that the keratometric flattening was more than 1 diopter in 90% of the eyes. This is a case where you can see a gross eyes asymmetry preoperatively, which is then regularized and stabilized at 1 year. We have a 3-year follow-up with this patient, and the patient is still doing exceedingly well. A quick word about pixel for myopia. Now, we're all aware that cross-linking increases the biomechanical rigidity, which results in a keratometric flattening. Now, when we do a keratometric flattening in the center of the cornea, what we would get is a myopic treatment, which is the rationale behind pixel for low myopia. There have only been a handful of studies of this novel technique thus far, and the change in the MRSE and the mean keratometric flattening was greater in the epithelium-off approach as compared to the transepithelial protocol. Now, the rationale for this is simple. The epi-on will have a higher consumption of oxygen, thereby the amount reaching the stroma is lower and the cross-linking is thereby lower. So what we did was that we studied the results of transepithelial pixel, but supplemented oxygen during the UVA irradiation in a way that the oxygen was more than 95% throughout the treatment. Now, our results in the same time frame showed a greater change in MRSE and a greater keratometric flattening, even in comparison to the epithelium-off approach. So this is a case where you can see the keratometric flattening of the patient. The patient had a correction of 1.25 diopter sphere. His central disc of haze in the center 4 millimeters resolves over a period of 3 to 4 months. So I'd just like to conclude that with a better understanding of the keratoponic disease process, we are now able to have tailor-made treatment approaches and have now been able to achieve optimal clinical outcomes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gitansha. That was excellent work that you are doing. I am aware that Dr. Himanshu at Narayan Nethralaya is also doing a lot of work with customized cross-linking, and I would like to have his comments on the fantastic results that Gitansha just shared with us.
Gaurav, this is something what Gitansha actually touched upon, that it's an evolving field and we are still looking at what is the best pattern which we can have. Interesting part is that we are dependent on the shape of cornea measurement, which is done by a different topographic instrument, which is such a surrogate measurement of shape of the cornea. So shape of the cone measurement itself is dependent on what kind of topographic machine and what kind of display you're using on the topography. So in future, when we decide based on brilliant microscopy how much area of the cone is involved and limit our treatment based on that and change the shape based on that, it would certainly help us improve the outcome. But Gitansha showed such a wonderful outcome, especially that asymmetric case which she was showing. And that's where if we are able to get a patient which can be visually rehabilitated with even glasses or such kind of thing, that's a big victory. So we need not always say that can we get rid of glasses and can we give them total visual rehabilitation with one procedure. But with this procedure, if we are able to convert them to a less serious treatment for the visual rehabilitation, well, that's good enough, and that's something which we have possibly are able to get with this kind of procedure.
Thanks, Himanshu, and I'll ask Dr. Namrata to please comment, especially on the pixel, results which Gitansha shared.
I think they are great results, and keratoconus was my MD thesis, so it it has been a long journey with keratoconus. But there was only one or two concerns which I feel, and I'm sure all those who are using customized cross-linking would address as follow-up gets better. The only thing is that in those cases also where we've done DALs, we've done PKs, we've seen that from the periphery, still you can have some ectasia. So despite doing grafts from the periphery, you get post-PK ectasia from the beyond the graft host junction or from beyond the DAL, they can still get ectatic, for which then you do tuck-in lamellar keratoplasty to reinforce that area. So it will be worthwhile seeing that from the area where you have cross-linked in a customized manner, what happens to the area which is beyond it in over a long-term follow-up period. Does it remain the same, or is there no progression of it, or does the progression beyond that area of treatment also stop? So what happens? I think that is something which one has to see in the long-term follow-up.
Thanks, Namrata. And I think Vardhaman has been doing some customized. Want to add any quick word before I go on to the next one?
Well, I think all the innovations that Gitansha had showed were amazing, with amazing results. Very quickly, I think in terms of customization, that she has correctly said, is now there are ways in which you can use lasers in association with cross-linking to customize it further, either with Athens protocol or Ketan protocol or ICRS or combination of all 3 or 4 procedures. But I think whatever different innovations she has shown were just brilliant. Thank you.
So Gitansha, it was excellent what you shared with us. It's pioneering work in cross-linking that you are doing, and please keep going ahead, discovering new things for us. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today.